I need to tell you something. So I really want you to listen up, okay? Parents, we're going to get through this. This back to school time, like we've never had before, we're going to get through it, and we're going to get through it together. I have no doubt in my mind that we can do this. And I believe that no parent should parent alone. You don't have to do this on your own. And I know that you have some natural built-in community that you're going to be leaning into right now. And I encourage you to do that through your child's school, through your friends and family network, right here in the Raising Our Resilience parent group, because we need each other. And that's why the next trainings and the training from last week are dedicated to getting you 7 essential back to school skills so that you know how to navigate the big emotions as they come up. You know ways to boost your child's motivation when they're trying a new way of virtual learning. You know how to organize the day to set up the kids for success. Because more than ever, it's falling on us, the parents, to get things going in the right direction for our kids. We used to be more of a village feeling, right? Kids being in school and after school activities and having their network, right? And your network of support in regular engagement. And that's not as easy to create right now. But it doesn't mean that we need to give up or give in on the things that we really want for our children. Things like academic achievement and learning great social and emotional skills, and taking responsibility in the home and helping out with things like chores and just generally getting along during this time together. So we're going to dive in today on motivation hacks. And why is motivation mastery one of my 7 pillars of raising a resilient child? Well, as you can imagine, think to yourself, all the times where you're trying to get your child on board, whether it's to do more of their schoolwork or get back to their lesson, or if it's to, get them to help out at home, even if it's just to keep the day moving, like having them listen when you give them a reminder that it's time to transition away from iPad time to setting up for dinner time. All of those moments have to do with motivation. It has to do with what? Type it in the comments if you can hear me right now, right? Just type in the word motivation. I really want this motivation piece to sink in for you today so that you can carry it forward for all the moments and days and weeks and months and years to come. This is one of my favorite areas to study. Research has shown that if you can really look at the root of what is getting in the way of children being engaged and motivated, the sky's the limit for our youth. They will push through obstacles. They will go for their dreams. They will, create healthy relationships if they have that proper motivation. And one thing you need to know right away is that motivation can come from the outside and it can come from within. And although we really want motivation to come from within, sometimes before kids have fully been sparked and excited and sort of fully taken the reins on something to move it forward, we as the adults are often in the position of helping them take the outside motivation and turn it into internal motivation. That's called extrinsic to intrinsic motivation. Our ultimate goal, though, and I think you would agree with this, is for our kids to be more self-motivated. So what I want you to put in the comments right now, so we can start to brainstorm this, is I want you to share what you would like your child to be more motivated to either engage with or to do or to be. What would you like your child to have more motivation, to have them really sparked up and engaged with? For some people, like I had this one client who's a music teacher. She really wanted he really wanted his daughter, to get interested and get motivated to practice her music, because he had found this great music teacher, but the practice sessions were really tough to get her motivated to do. So we worked through the things that were getting in the way, and we brought in some great motivation tools so that his daughter would want to engage in those music lessons and even do the practice in between without putting up a fight, okay? As an example. But what is it for you? What do you want your child to be more motivated to do? And why is this a survival skill for back to school? Well, think about what is now being heaped onto the family's plate, yeah? Attending classes, managing schoolwork, getting that schoolwork done, learning something from that schoolwork, continuing to keep the household running while everybody's, in the household even more than ever, whether you're in a home learning, a hybrid, or even a regular school day. We're just all home more right now. So we have more that we have to do at home. So what is it for you? Put in the comments, help me help you. I want to know what it is that you are working on, you would want to be working on right now that would make the biggest difference, that your child would be motivated to do that thing, okay? So as you're adding those in, I'll roll into the 3 topics today that I want you to know about. But it's really important that you have something in mind as we head in to kind of busting through some obstacles and getting you some insights about what might be breaking down in terms of motivation for your child, okay? All right, so as you've written this down, and you can absolutely continue to write into the comments, even if you're listening to the recording, even if you're listening to this on YouTube and you're not in the Facebook group, go ahead and write down what it is, okay? So that we know what it is that you are hoping to hack. Okay. Now, while you have that in mind, I want you to kind of back up a little bit and say, and really ask this question. And if you ask this question in the moment, it's going to help you over and over and over again. So this is my first hot sort of big tip, which is what do I think is getting in the way of my child being motivated right now? And you should start with the basics. If you think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like start with the basics. Are they hungry? Are they angry? Are they lonely? Are they tired? Are they maybe dehydrated or overwhelmed? Is there something going on with them that makes it physically difficult for them to be motivated right now? And you're going to want to address that first. Makes sense, right? You can probably relate to that, right? Like if you didn't have a very good night of sleep, it's hard to jump up out of bed and get to your email inbox. You just you're tired and groggy, right? So getting better rest would be a priority. So look at that level first. Now, the next thing I want you to look at when you're trying to figure out what's going on with your child and motivation is, I don't have time to give you all 5 of the things that could be getting in the way, but we're going to be leaning into a few of them today. I want you to be thinking about whether or not there is some kind of story or some kind of belief or some kind of mistaken idea that's in play that is causing them to have a barrier, so that instead of seeing this activity as important, as enjoyable, as exciting, as interesting, as something they can and are able to do, they have a different kind of perspective and story of that thing. So here's an example. Clearing the dishes after dinner. We'll do a housework one first. If they don't, first of all, they haven't found it interesting to see the table all cleared off. They haven't found it interesting to find a way to stack the plates all into one stack and carry it over to the sink. If they haven't found it interesting to collect the food scraps and turn it into compost, notice I'm building in some interest hacks here. If they haven't found it interesting to like get to the next thing, as this is sort of their like ticket, their exit ticket to be able to leave the table, right? If they don't have an anticipation of what's coming next, right? If they don't find it interesting, if you have a system set up for allowance, to clear the table 5 days in a row to earn that extra allowance. If they don't have a way to find it interesting, then they might get stuck, right? So that's a great example of how you might look at interest and just see if there's a way to boost interest to kind of get the kids on board with what's going on. Another thing that could be happening is that they could be disconnected to how the dirty dishes are connected to other people, right? So in other words, if they don't clean the dishes, then someone else has to. Well, that can get a little petty, especially with siblings. Where it's like, no, you do it, I did it last time. And it's just this like, it kind of has this icky feeling around it, this conflict. And so instead of interest, what you might want to look at is the connections between people and the labor that they've done and kind of boost some gratitude there. So a great example could be sharing a little story during dinner before it's time to clean up the dishes and say, you know what I noticed was that Dad went to 2 different stores today or this week to pick up the groceries to make this recipe. I know he's been really looking forward to making it. He planned it for days. And I saw him spending like a whole hour in the kitchen on Sunday making these ahead of time so we could have them to eat. Wow, I just really appreciate how much he did for us. And he kind of gave up his time. Like Sundays are often his time where he gets to relax and not work, but he decided to make this delicious meal for us. Wow. How does that make you feel just thinking about that? And then, you kind of lead them into a moment of appreciation, like, oh, like I didn't realize, like, something that was invisible to them, you make visible. So now they're thinking, oh, wow, there's this, there's this person that did this great thing. And so, and then they can start to feel a little of that kind of stirring of like, oh, that's so nice. And what ends up happening is that, kindness is contagious. So if the kindness of someone, like the dad making dinner and taking time to do it and having them in mind, even maybe making a dish that he knew that the kids love to eat, it's one of their favorites, that can stir up a feeling of wanting to contribute and be kind back. And so then that's when you can suggest something like, what would really be nice is if we didn't leave any work for dad to do after dinner and we took care of the cleanup. What do you think, kids? And oftentimes the kids will go, maybe even a little begrudgingly, but they'll get on board because they see the connection that this task has to the people that, really care about them and that they care about back. So those are 2 ways that you can kind of look and see that there's something at play that's kind of getting in the way, a lack of interest and a lack of sort of relatedness, a connection with others. Another thing that can help with relatedness is just finding a way to do it in good company. And even you can combine the relatedness and the interest hack and bring it together. Turn on some music, make it fun and interesting to like move your body, move the dishes towards the sink, and then do it together at first. And just do it as a thing like model what it's like to just be like, ooh, I wonder how we can stack these dishes, or I wonder if we can carry them all at once. I wonder how long it would take. Let's set a timer. How long would it take for us to actually get all these dishes in the dishwasher? I bet it's less than 5 minutes. I bet we could have this whole job done in less than 5 minutes. Yeah, totally. Let's do it and turn it into a little bit of a game, So together you can hack the motivation that there's actually something available there. And so what you need to back up though and think about, and I want you to put next in the comments, if you could just go ahead and write it in. What do you think might be getting in the way of your child being motivated? What could be lacking, right? A lack of interest, not feeling connected to the other people and maybe the source of goodness. And then I have 2 more for you, okay? So those are the first 2, interest and relatedness. Now, one of the things that we often will make mistakes about as parents is, and caregivers, is we'll ask kids to do a bit more than they're ready for. And when they don't do the thing in the full form of it, then we get frustrated and they feel pressured. And so what I'm going to teach you about right now is this thing called the zone of proximal development. And this comes from developmental science, from developmental research. And the idea is that a child is where they are in terms of their skill set. So let's use like doing asynchronistic learning, which is a new thing that we're all doing. A lot of kids are doing now, where there's these pre-recorded videos that the kids need to watch now. Let me know if you're doing that in the comments. Like, yeah, we're doing that kind of learning in our school. It's called different things, AL something usually. Let me know, because I'd be curious to see if you're doing it. So what's happening there is maybe they'll be getting a video and then they're supposed to watch the video and do an activity. Well, let's take a look at that from the lens of a zone of proximal development. So let's say a child, it has the skill set to watch a 15-minute video, but 20 is kind of long, okay? And so in their developmental ability, 15 minutes is a reasonable expectation. And we can absolutely say, hey, honey, like, I want you, like, let's sit down and I know you can handle watching the first 15 minutes, right? But instead of saying, hey, honey, you should, like, if you can watch 15, then you should be able to watch 20. You're going to want to look out for when things are slightly out of their known skill set, right? So 20 minutes is slightly on the outside of their regular skill set. And just pay attention, because that's when they're in their zone of proximal development. In other words, they're in the zone of development that is right next to what their current developmental level is. So 15 minutes is their current zone, and now they're being asked to do 20. That's where you're going to need to pay attention. And it's best to put your attention there than to just sort of throw it at them and see what happens. Because what ends up happening is when we give them support in their zone of proximal development, they feel encouraged to take on more and more and more. But if we don't give them support when they're heading into their zone of proximal development and maybe even outside of their reach at the time, that's when things happen where they start to feel discouraged and they start to feel a lack of competence, which is our third motivation hack, a lack of competence. So what you might do in that case is you might create, like, first of all, notice what your child is able to do. And then when you see that there's a task of some kind, let's say it's 20 minutes of viewing, or it's doing 10 problems instead of 5 on a problem set, help them break it down into smaller steps, or help them be there when they get to that spot where you know it might start to get hard. So it would go like this. Honey, after the first 15 minutes, I want, let's set a timer 15 minutes. After the first 15 minutes, just come and grab me and I'll watch the last 5 with you. Or you can come and sit next to me and put some earbuds in for this 20-minute video, because I know it's a little longer than you're used to sitting through. It doesn't have to be major support where you're sitting there hand holding. You can give them the part that they're ready for, but then be there for that part where it starts to push them. For the 10 problem sets, you could draw a line in it and have them do 5, take a break and do 5 more. Check in how the first 5 went. And then, make that 5-minute check-in with them, let them take that 5-minute break, and then come back to do the next 5. Rather than saying, honey, why are you getting distracted when they're on problem 6? Oftentimes what we misread as a lack of motivation is actually them hitting their threshold. They can't go further without a break, support, or a little bit of maybe like a boost of motivation, right? So I want you to really think about what could be getting in the way for your child. We're going back to that question, and this is that key question, and it's not always easy to identify on your own, which is why I've created a way for parents to follow up with me and take this discovery quiz to find out if motivation is your pillar, like it's the one you need the most support with, or maybe it's something else. Maybe it's emotional mastery. Maybe it's setting up a smooth routine and getting your kids on board. Maybe it's setting up limits that stick and really having your kids get on board with your rules and regulations of your house and expectations, right? The boundaries. I don't know what it is for you, and you may have an idea, but I created a quiz to help clarify this. So I'm going to drop the quiz link into this post so that you can have a chance to take it. And there's also an opportunity to get some one-on-one personal attention with me, where we'll sit down for 20 minutes and we'll ask these questions. What do you want your child to be more motivated to do? What do you think is getting in the way? And then we'll come up with a mini plan of like 3 or more steps. We'll see what we think it will take for you to then get some things in place that will make a difference with your child's motivation or whatever pillar we end up focusing on in your session, depending on your quiz results. So I super encourage you to just do it right now. Like go grab, like click the link and go ahead and do it. I'll even throw it into the comments right here so you can find it really easily. And then if it lets me, sometimes Facebook doesn't let me. And then I'll also have you, go ahead and just fill it out. It takes about 10 minutes at most, 10 minutes. I've had folks easily do it in 5. And it's so worth it. It's clarifying whether we end up doing the session or you end up going any further with it or not. Just the questions alone can kind of help you focus as a parent. So last piece I want to share with you. So we've looked at interest and we've looked at relatedness, like helping the kids draw lines and connections with how this impacts others and how, kindness can be contagious. We've talked about ways that you can, support them in their zone of proximal development. Doing a great job, parents, you're learning. Good job. The last thing I want you to know about is growth mindset. It's this amazing concept developed by a Stanford researcher, Carol Dweck, and she had this really amazing breakthrough research study where just with one line of praise, kids would either be motivated to continue with an activity or they would sit back and go, you know what, I'm good. And the weird and interesting part, the kind of like weird science of it, is that both lines of praise were positive. And here's how they went. One went, wow, you did so well at that. You must be really smart at this. And then the other line of praise was, wow, you did really well in this. You must have really tried hard and put in a lot of effort. The kids who were praised for their smarts were being praised with a fixed mindset. In other words, you have a certain amount of smart. And this test shows how much smart you have, how much smartness, or right, how much intelligence you have. So guess what? Once the kids were like, oh, this means I'm smart. Okay, I don't want to do anything that could challenge that theory. So no, thank you. I don't want to take the next harder quiz. And they took another quiz that was at the same level of the first one, and they did worse because they were in this sort of anxious feeling of, oh, I don't know, this is challenging this idea that I'm smart. I proved it once. Will I be able to prove it again? And they also were less interested in seeing what mistakes they made and how to correct them. Like they didn't want to learn from their mistakes, basically, and so many other things. But then the kids who were praised for their effort, not only did they want to do the next harder quiz, they did better when they took another quiz at that first level that was lower. And there was like a 50% achievement gap between these two groups when they took that final easier, the easier quiz, which is stunning. It's way beyond statistical like insignificance, right? It's like, it's not by chance. So I'm going to post a video in the group about this study, and I want you to just take a look at it. And in the comments, here's what I'm going to encourage you to do. I want you to just pull one thing out of it that you think would help you notice when your child is in a fixed mindset, and one thing you can do to help them move over to a growth mindset, whether it's something you say, whether it's you role modeling a growth mindset and what it looks like to maybe be in process and making mistakes. And I can help you with it. So go for it, try it, see what you come up with. I'll be so curious and I'll support you. Whatever comments you put in there, I'll jam in there with you and give you some more suggestions. This is your opportunity to have access to me and my insights. I have 15 years of classroom experience. I have a thriving coaching practice with parents. I have a year-long academy for parents. I run 3-day events and 2-hour webinars and talks like this. And this is your opportunity to actually get some straight up support from me. So use it, I really encourage you to. And if you think you even want to go further and get clarity on what areas you would love to know that you have, need for support, and what areas that you can build off of as your strengths, take that quiz. Just take it. If you haven't yet. Everyone who's taken, no one has said to me, Vanessa, I really wish I hadn't taken your quiz. Like they really benefited from it. And my clients have learned incredible things through understanding what to focus on next. They said it's like an acceleration of their parent development, where they get to pack in like all the years of training they wish they had into 1 year with me, or 6 months or 3 months, depending on our course. And anyway, even if you don't go down that road, just taking the quiz will be helpful to get that first step you can take into that sort of like parent experience of like, I've got this. I'm a leader. I have clarity. I have confidence. I know what I'm going to do next. And then in the strategy session, we can help you figure out how. Okay. So hope you have a great week. We'll be back here next week. Next week, our topic is, I believe we're going to be heading into routines, but I'll double check that one. But we're going to hit all 7 pillars in this series. So I'm looking forward to supporting you, and I'll see you then. All right, take care. Bye for now.